Well, thank you so much for that great introduction, Cliff. And again, this week, I am actually on the Gulf Coast of the great state of Florida, coming to you from the Western NCK bunker, somewhere amongst the sandy beaches and pine trees and green grass of Clearwater, Florida. I don't know where you are in this big world, but I'm glad you're here listening tonight, or maybe if you're listening even in the future, days, weeks, months, who knows, maybe even years to come. And I don't know. They tell me that shortwave travels through the atmosphere and across the universe. So you might be hearing this and you might not even have ever heard from a human before. And hey, if that's the truth, that's okay. We're on our worldwide shortwave radio broadcast. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower, former 20-year preacher, Bible college graduate, veteran of over 100,000 hours of study in the biblical scriptures, trying to share with you the truth that Christianity is a fear and guilt control matrix, and you are suffering from acute Stockholm syndrome. We're here to open up the door and show you the way to freedom. Now, some of you think that the idea that the Bible and Christianity could be wrong, you find that idea preposterous. And I understand, because I did too. For 20 years, I preached the Bible. For 20 years, I lived the Bible. For 20 years, I found what I did in the Bible and did what I found in the Bible. But then I saw that there were cracks in the foundation of biblical religion. And you would think that you had to look far. You would think that you have to look wide. You'd think that it would take tremendous study, tremendous reading. You'd have to really get in to the Bible before you would find errors, cracks, deceptions, delusions, obscurities, absurdities. What if I told you that the great deception is in the first two verses? What if I told you that the great deception is in the first two verses? And what if that's not crazy enough, what if I told you that one of the great deceptions actually is in the fourth word? That's right, the fourth word of the Bible. The fourth word of the Bible is where the great deception begins. The first two verses of the Bible contain some of the greatest deception ever perpetrated upon the minds of modern men and women. And as we come to you tonight over worldwide shortwave radio, I want you to ponder some things. I want you to think about some things. I want you to consider some things. Now, someone's out there saying, that's big talk. Those are big words, but show me what you're talking about. Well, I said the fourth word of the Bible. Count along with me, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Four words. In one, the two, beginning, three, God, four. So I'm telling you that the great deception begins with the fourth word. The fourth word of the Bible, as we have it, that's where the great deception begins. Well, Jeff, how can the word God be a great deception? How can the word God be the genesis, pun fully intended, see what I did with that? How can Genesis, the genesis of all of the deception, be the word God? Well, let me tell you how it can be the beginning of the Genesis. When you think of God, what do you think of? I'll wait just briefly. You picture a man with long flowing gray hair. You picture a man with a beard. Some of you might picture a young person with a beard, blonde hair, but you picture one dude, and most of you probably see Charlton Heston or somebody like that. Some of you see George Burns, a few of you, maybe even a few of you see Morgan Freeman. But we see a dude, we see a long-haired, bearded man, and we believe, and our entire Western civilization is based upon the fact, hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one Lord, one God. We're taught there's one God, just one God. And have you ever stopped to think, in a universe of such multiplicity, in a universe of such diversity, in a universe of such great variation, did you ever stop to think that one God? And let's bring it back down to earth. Look around the earth. Look at the variety of life, the variety of plant life, the variety of clouds, the variety of stones, the variety of bugs, the variety of birds, the variety of fish, the variety of chickens, the variety of pigeons, the variety of giraffes and elephants, and the variety of people. Our world is a world of variety, and yet we've been taught one God, one God. Well, Jeff, that's just the way it is. That's not a deception. Well, let me share with you what that word is. That fourth word in the Bible that's translated God is the word Elohim. Elohim. And do you know what that word means, literally rendered in the Hebrew language? It means gods and goddesses, plural. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't care what it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you feel. It doesn't matter what you believe. You New Age people, doesn't matter what your truth is. The linguistic simplicity, the plain, straight gospel truth of the gospel text is that the word Elohim means gods and goddesses, male and female, plural. There's gods, there's goddesses, and there's more than one of them. 4 words into the Bible. And what you believe has just proven to be absolutely, totally, completely false. And it's part of the fear and guilt control matrix that keeps you bound. And it's part of the Stockholm syndrome. You're out there yelling and screaming right now. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's wrong. I don't like him. But you're going to look it up on BibleHub.com. You're going to look it up in your concordances, and you're going to say, he's right. Gods and goddesses, male and female, more than one of them. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what it means, period. Doesn't matter what you think about it. Doesn't matter what you believe about it. My New Age friends, doesn't matter what your truth is. The word Elohim means gods, goddesses, more than one. We were created, the gospel truth is that we were created by a plurality of gods and goddesses. And you know what? All of a sudden, it makes things seem and make more sense. Because if Genesis 1:1 says, in the beginning, there were gods and goddesses, male and female, then it makes Genesis 1:27 make a lot more sense. If in the beginning there were gods and goddesses, male and female, more than one, so when the Elohim created man in their own image, in the image of the Elohim created they him, male and female created they them. Oh no, now he's backing scripture up with scripture. What am I going to do? If Genesis 1 says one dude is the only God, then Genesis 1:27 gives you a real problem. Because here's them saying, let us, that's Genesis 1:26, let us make man after our likeness. But then if the Elohim are gods and goddesses, more than one plural, us is very understandable. If the Elohim are gods and goddesses, more than one, then our is perfectly understandable. And if they're male and female, gods and goddesses, more than one, it's very easy to understand how the Elohim created us in their image, and we were made, of course, male and female. Why? Because the Elohim are male and female, and that's what the word means. Some of you Christians out there love to say, the Bible said it, I believe it, that settles it. Well, the Bible said it, and I hate to tell you, but whether you believe it or not, that still settles it. Now, the Bible said it, you don't have to believe it, but that still settles it. Why don't you come over from the dark side? The Bible said it, I believe it, that settles it. Wow. But speaking of the dark side, let me give you some good news, and while I'm at it, while I'm stomping on toes, while I'm slaying sacred cows, let me slay another one. And this is one that the Christian whistleblower, Jeffrey Darney, here on the Gospel Truth program almost got into. In the alternative community, in the New Age, if you want to say that, there's this concept now about darkness is the truth, and that darkness was the beginning, and that light might be the deception, because and there's this idea that light comes from darkness, and it's based on these two scriptures, Genesis 1:1, 1:2. So I've already shown you that 4 words in, there's some deception, there's some delusion. And I'm going to show you in these first 2 verses, there's huge deception, there's huge delusion. I've helped the Christian people out. I've helped the Bible believers out. Let me help out the New Age, New Cage. Let me help out the alternative information people a little bit too. Those of you that say, well, look here, Genesis 1:1 says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. That shows you that darkness was the beginning state of the earth. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Even if you believe New Age, New Cage, even if you believe alternative information, that the gods are gods and goddesses, male and female, in the beginning, the Elohim created the heaven and the earth was without form and void. Darkness upon the face of the deep. And it wasn't until verse 3 that God said, let there be light, and there was light. So obviously, if light didn't come to verse 3 and God created in verse 1 and it was dark, then light's got to come from dark, right? Wrong. Wrong. Be calm and listen to the Christian whistleblower. I'm going to show you why that's wrong. I'm going to show you why that's erroneous. And I'm going to show you why it's incorrect. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, period. That's what happened at the beginning. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Verse number 2, and the earth was without form and void, darkness on the face of the deep. What if I told you there was thousands, maybe even millions of years between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2? And what if I told you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, the 14th word. The 14th word which is a 5, is a huge deception. So the fourth word, God, is a huge deception. The 14th word, which is 5, is a huge deception. 4, 5. I want to see what word 15 is. That ought to be really interesting. But anyway, we won't get into numerology and really blow people's minds. But if you look at verse 2, where it says the earth was without form and void, if you go into the Hebrew language for what the word was is, the word was is the word ha-yeta. It's 1961 in your Strong's Biblical Concordance. And you know what it means? It means to fall out, to come to pass, to become. It's translated 85 times became. It's translated 221 times become. 13 times becomes. Becoming. It's translated 358 times came to be. It's translated was one time. One time. Every other time in the Old Testament where that word is translated, except for Genesis 1:2, it's translated became. It came to pass. So what if we read Genesis 1:1 and 1:2 with our new understanding in mind? And again, doesn't matter what you think, doesn't matter what you feel, doesn't matter what you believe, doesn't matter what your truth is. The linguistics of the word, words mean things, and they mean specific things, and it doesn't matter how you feel about them. They still mean what they mean. I'm helping you. So let's read this again. In the beginning, the gods and goddesses created the heaven and the earth. And the earth became without form and void, with darkness upon the face of the deep. Now hold the phone. Somebody says, shut the front door. Hold on. That changes everything. Everything. When we thought in the beginning, one dude created the heaven and the earth, and when dude created it, it was out without form and void, and darkness is upon the face of the deep. And our new age, new cage, alternate information people want to talk about darkness is first, so light comes from darkness, so we really should get back to darkness. Hold the phone, ladies and gentlemen. Pump your brakes. Slow down. Relax. Take it easy. And listen to the Christian whistleblower. In the beginning, the true Hebrew scriptures say, in the beginning, the gods and goddesses created the heavens and the earth, period. And the earth became without form and void. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, hurry, hurry, step right up. The beginning was not necessarily in darkness. We have to look at 1:1, Genesis 1:1, and find out. Was it in darkness? Because it was not in darkness, it became in darkness. So the linguistic inference is that it was in light, but we're not going to depend upon that. Even though it's sound, logical deduction, is there somewhere else in the Bible that takes a look at Genesis 1:1, Genesis 1:2? In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Earth was without form and void. Without form and void is tohu, bohu. That's the Hebrew word. Is there any other place in the Bible that shows the earth tohu, bohu? There's one. Only one place other than this one that shows the earth tohu, bohu. What that tells me is that if there's only two, the one is talking about the other's talking about the one. It's the same time, it's the same place, So shut my mouth and slap my face. What's that scripture say? Well, it's Jeremiah. He was a prophet. And Jeremiah said, I looked at the earth, and it was without form and void. Wait a second. Genesis 1:2 says, the earth became without form and void. In Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 23, I looked at the earth, and it was without form and void. Whoa. Jeremiah is looking at Genesis 1:2 earth. Jeremiah says, there's no form, it's tohu bohu. Only other place in the whole Bible, folks, where it's tohu bohu. Talking about the same thing, talking about the same time, talking about the same place. You can't avoid it. Doesn't matter what you think, doesn't matter what you feel, doesn't matter what you believe, doesn't matter what your truth is. The gospel truth, the linguistic truth is Jeremiah, the writer of Genesis, talking about the same thing, same place, same time. It was without form and void, and the heavens had no light. Now I ask you, if it was the normal condition for there not to be any light, why would he say, oh, there's no light? Because it wasn't the normal condition. The heavens and the earth were made originally with light, and they became darkness. He also said, it's tohu bohu, it's without form and void. There's no light. I looked at the mountains. They're gone. And then he says this in verse 25, ladies and gentlemen. I looked around, there were no men. All the birds were fled. The fruitful place was a wilderness. The cities were broken down. Ladies and gentlemen, Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, the gods and goddesses created the heavens and the earth. How do gods and goddesses create? Do they create something without form and void? Do they create a wreck? No. Logically, you know they didn't create a wreck. But now linguistically, you know they didn't create a wreck. And some of you just don't believe me. I'm saying the gods and goddesses did not create it without form and void. They didn't create a wreck. There is one other place where the words tohu and bohu are used. It's in Isaiah. It's in Isaiah. It's in Isaiah chapter 45, verse number 18, and it says, the earth was created not in vain. It was created not tohu bohu. It was created not tohu bohu. It was formed, inhabited. It had, it had people. The earth was not created tohu bohu. It had people on it. Jeremiah in chapter 4, verse 23, saw the people. Said, man, where'd the man go? He was here, he's gone. Where'd the birds go? They were here, they're gone. Where'd the fruitful place go? It was here, it's gone. Now it's a wilderness. Where did the cities go? Ladies and gentlemen, not only were there men and women on the earth in Genesis 1:1, there were birds, there were trees, there were fruitful places. There were so many men and women, ladies and gentlemen, that there were at least 2 cities. The cities were broken down. Wow. Wow. So let me get this straight. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, in the beginning, the gods and goddesses created the heaven and the earth. It was filled with enough people to be in cities. It was filled with birds. It was a great fruitful place. There was light. And then the earth became without form and void, with darkness upon the face of the deep. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if I'll tell you today what happened to make it this way, but I know. But this tells us that it wasn't darkness first. It tells us that light didn't come from darkness. And it might be a dark lie that's trying to get us to believe that. Let me call your attention to something else with direct reference to that light. I haven't shown you once. I haven't shown you twice. I'm not going to show you 3 times. I'm not going to show you 4 times. I'm going to go all the way to even a 5th and 6th and a 7th showing, because watch this. The book of John, chapter 1. It says, in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. In the beginning. Takes us right back to Genesis 1:1, in the beginning. John 1:1, in the beginning. The Word was with God. The Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him. And without him was not anything made that was made. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the exact same time of Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, the gods and goddesses made the heaven and the earth. In the beginning was the Word. He was one of the gods. He was with the gods, it says. And he was one of the gods. So now we know that one of the gods and goddesses in the beginning was this person called the Word. This one was in the beginning with the gods, and he made everything. He's part of that group that made everything. And without him, there wasn't anything made that was made. And watch this, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, darkness was first, Jeff. Light comes out of darkness. Hold on. Because in him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shined in darkness, and darkness comprehended it not. Bad translation. Let me help you out. Even that blows your mind. You're like, whoa. You see what 100,000 hours of Bible study looks like? You're seeing it. I don't get out much. I don't have a lot of hobbies. This is my hobby. Mark Twain said, if you want to be happy, make your vacation your vocation. I've done that. I'm happy as a clam. Making you mad as a snake. Interlinear. What's it say? It says, in the beginning was the Word was with the Elohim, and the Word was an Elohim. And then it says, he was in the beginning with the Elohim. And then it says, all things emerged, and without him emerged not even one thing that has emerged. And then it says, in him was life, Zoe, 2222 in the Greek. The life of both physical and of spiritual existence. All life. Look it up in the Strong's Concordance. All life, all life, all life, not some life, not part of life, not most of life, ladies and gentlemen, but all life, all of it. 2222, Zoe, all life, all physical life, all spiritual life throughout the universe. All physical life and all spiritual life throughout the universe is derived from, that's what this word means, all life. Not some life, not most life, not almost every bit of all life. All physical life, all spiritual life is derived from, what's the next word? And in this life was the light, the light, the source of light, the radiance, the light, the illumination, the light. All light, ladies and gentlemen, all light. All light, all life, pardon me, is from light. Light. All life is from light. Jeremiah saw a world that had light. Isaiah talked of a world that was created with light. Genesis 1:1 says the world was created and there was light. John 1:1 says when everything was made, when every single thing emerged, there was light. And that light, not darkness, that light. Don't care what you think, don't care what you feel, don't care what you believe, don't care what your truth is. All life in this universe, physical and spiritual, comes from light. Light. And that light was the light of men, and that light became flesh and dwelt among us. And we touched him, watched him, the only begotten of the Elohim. The only time in our memory that an Elohim came down and said, boom, here I am. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, let me give you some good news. Let me give you some powerful news. Let me give you some exciting news. In the beginning, it wasn't one dude. It was the gods and goddesses that created this heaven and this earth. And they created it just like you'd expect a god and a goddess to create. They didn't create it without form. They didn't create it void. And they didn't create it with darkness upon the face of the deep. Isaiah said, look, it wasn't created without form. It wasn't created without void. It wasn't created with darkness on the face of the deep. It was created with light. All physical life is created by light. All spiritual life is created by light, period. Don't care what you think. Don't care what you feel. Don't care what you believe. Don't care what your truth is. The gospel truth, the linguistic truth, the plain, simple language of the Old and New Testament says, gods and goddesses made it. All the life was there, including people, plants, animals, birds. And all of that life came from light, not darkness. And an event occurred which brought the earth. It became without form and void. And further testament, I told you I'd go even deeper. Verse number 3, and the Elohim said, as they were fixing stuff up, let there be light. First thing they did, let there be light. And what it says is, let the light shine through, because the darkness was there. And the light shined back through. And remember what John said? He said the darkness had not comprehended the light. Let me help you one more time. Let me help you one more time. Let me remind you what verse I'm talking about. I'm talking about verse number, what verse is that? Verse number 4? No, it's verse number 5. So the light shone through the darkness, and the darkness couldn't comprehend it. Bad translation. That word is katelaben. And what does it mean? It means the light shined through the darkness, and the darkness was not able to overtake it. It was unable to capture it. The light was too strong. The light was too powerful. Darkness could not remain. The gods and goddesses made a perfect world with men and birds and plants and light. Something happened which caused that world to become dark. It caused the cities to be torn down. It caused the man to be killed. It caused the birds to be killed. It caused the fruitful vegetation to be killed. And it was dark. And it looked like for a while that the gods and goddesses had failed. But then they went back to work and they said, let there be light. Light came back, and darkness could not overcome the light. And I'm betting tonight, wherever you are listening to this, some of you will shrug your shoulders and stick out your chins and, this guy, because you're not ready for it. You're not ready for this truth. You can't handle this truth, so it's not for you, and that's okay. But some of you are the light's going to shine through this darkness. And the darkness of belief, the dark night of your spirit, the dark night of Stockholm Syndrome, the dark night of the fear and guilt control matrix is going to break through. The light's going to break through that, and you are going to see the light, and the darkness is not going to be able to overcome it in your life. Some of you will choose to stay in dark, but some of you tonight are coming out into the light, and that's all right. That's what it's all about. Should we talk about what made it become dark? Should we talk about what made it become dark? Oh, all right. Let's talk about it real quickly. But it's going to blow your mind. You got to promise, okay, if I tell you what made the perfect earth get wrecked, what made the man die, what made the cities get destroyed, what made the light turn into dark, if I tell you, you got to promise not to leave right now. You got to listen to the rest of the 20 minutes or whatever that we're here together tonight. And I'm not going to tell you, I'm just going to tell you what Jeremiah told you. Okay? Jeremiah 4:23. I looked at the earth, it was without form and void. The light was gone. The mountains were gone. The men were gone. The birds were gone. The fruitful place had become destroyed. The cities were broken down. And it tells us exactly how they were broken down. And it tells us exactly who broke them down. And I'm probably going to lose you over here on Twitter, Facebook, and Periscope because we're running out of juice on that end. It says that, are you ready? The light was gone. The mountains were gone. The men were gone. The birds were gone. The fruitful place was gone. The cities were gone. At the presence of Yahweh and by his fierce anger. We know that the Lord was one of the Elohim. Guess what? We know that, we know that the word, isn't that funny? The word W-O-R-D, the Lord L-O-R-D. I need to study that up. Word and Lord. That's interesting. The word was one of the Elohim, and so was the Lord one of the Elohim. And he got mad for some reason that we may go into someday, or you can buy my book, Serpents and Doves in the Garden of the Gods. I'll tell you exactly why. And he destroyed that perfect earth. And the earth became without form and void at the presence of the Lord and by his fierce anger. Fiery anger blowing through his nostrils in the original Hebrew. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you that one of the biggest deceptions in all of scriptures in the first two verses. I showed you the fourth word. It's not one dude, God. It's the gods and goddesses. I showed you in 1 and 2 that not only was the earth created perfect, inhabited, light, lush, and something happened to make it without form and void. Darkness was not the beginning. Darkness was a result of something that happened. Light was the beginning. I showed you that all physical life is based in light. I showed you that all spiritual light is based in life. And now you know that the God of the Bible, the Lord, remember that guy that says, I am the Lord thy God, I am one God. Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one God. He's also one lying God. He's one killing God. He's one destroying God. He wrecked the whole place. And it makes so much more sense now when you heard the Christ say, "You're of your father, the devil, who's been a murderer from the beginning." In the beginning, he smashed the men. He smashed the birds. He smashed the fruitful place. He smashed the cities. He smashed the light. The God of the Bible is a God of destruction and revenge and vengeance and hatred and jealousy. And he even tells you that. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 verses into the Bible, and we have uncovered 3 of the biggest delusions that still have you bound. That's amazing. That is unfathomable. This may be one of the greatest messages that the Christian whistleblowers ever brought to you. And remember, Lord is not a title. In this scenario, when you look at it in Genesis, in the Old Testament, where it's capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D, it's not a title. It is the name of God, the God of Israel, that is. It's the name of the God of Israel. If you don't believe me, maybe you'd believe the Strong's exhaustive concordance of the Bible. Jeremiah 4 and I'm in Isaiah 45:19. The word Lord, I'm looking it up in the interlinear. 45:19. It says the name of the covenant God of Israel. That's what capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D means. Doesn't care what you think. Doesn't care what you believe. Doesn't care if you like it. Doesn't care what your truth is, my New Age friends. It means the covenant God of Israel. He's the one that wrecked the earth. Wow. Let me say that backwards. Wow. Let me say it the other way. Wow. Can I show you one more thing from these 2 verses? Just one more little bitty thing from these 2 verses. We've always been taught that speech is super important, and it is. We've always been taught that speech is so important because that's how the world was created. And God said, "Let there be light." And God said, and God said, and God said, the gods and goddesses said. Well, that's not what they did in the beginning. They did the saying after the Lord wrecked it, and they were fixing everything up. But in the beginning, let's go back to Genesis 1:1. In the beginning. What does that mean, in the beginning? In the beginning. The word is beresit, in the beginning. You know what it says? You know what it means? In the beginning. It means the beginning, the first. It means in the mind. In the mind, in the thought. In the beginning, the gods and goddesses got together in the beginning, in their minds, in their thoughts. In the beginning, in their minds, in their thoughts, they created, they bara. They chose. They decided. in their thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, speech is really important when you're walking around in a body like we are. But what's even more important is thought. And that makes me wonder about Thoth. Thoth, thought. Was it Thoth? Was it thought? All I know is that in the beginning, in their minds, in their heads, in their spirits, without speech, they created. Somebody wants us to believe that it's got to be speech. No. It's in the mind. Yes, words are important. Yes, speech is important. But what we forget is thoughts are things. And it calls us to a higher place because we think, oh, I can think he's a dirty, rotten scoundrel. I hate her guts, but as long as I don't say it, I'm okay. No. Thoughts are things. Thoughts are things. And remember the Christ? Oh, it makes sense now. As a man, as a woman thinks in their heart, so are they. You may be the sweetest, you may not say one bad word to anybody. You may be the sweetest thing, but your thoughts could be filthy, dirty, rotten, wretched, rancid. As a man, as a woman, as a boy, as a girl thinks, so are they. Thoughts are things. It wasn't speech that created the earth originally. It was thought that created the earth originally. And if we follow our line of reasoning here, and if we follow the biblical bread trail, breadcrumbs, thought is light. And thought can become darkness. You were created in the image of the Elohim, after their likeness. You were created after the likeness of a God. I have a cat. He was created after the likeness of his mom and dad. What were they? They were cats. What is he? He's a cat. I've been to the zoo. I saw a baby elephant. That baby elephant was an elephant. I saw his mom and his dad. Guess what? They were elephants. Also at that zoo, I saw some monkeys. And they had baby monkeys with diapers on. And guess what? The mom and dad was a monkey, and the baby was a monkey. Jeff, what are you saying? I'm saying that you were created in the likeness of the gods and goddesses, male and female. They made you. They're gods. What are you? Monkeys make monkeys. Cats make cats. Elephants make elephants. Rhinoceros make rhinoceros. Hippopotamus makes hippopotamus. Giraffe makes giraffe. Dog makes dog. Frog makes frog. Crocodile makes crocodile. Eagle makes eagle. Bird makes bird. I think you see my point. You are a little baby God. And your thoughts are either light, from which springs all physical and all spiritual life, or your thoughts are darkness, which wrecks everything. You're creating your own world, and you're creating our world. Are you helping us, or are you hurting us? Are you helping you, or are you hurting you? Wow. That is some heavy-duty revelation. That is some big stuff. That is some powerful stuff. That is some amazing stuff. You're not going to hear stuff like this anywhere else except from your friendly neighborhood Christian whistleblower. Wow. That is amazing stuff. Let me review it for you just a little bit, because I know that your minds are blown all over the world tonight. We've been taught that in the beginning, one dude created the heaven and the earth, and he created it toe up from the flow up. He created it jacked up. He created it all ratchet. He created it without form, void, dark. That's what we've been taught. But now we know it wasn't a dude that created it. It was gods and goddesses, male and female, more than one. They created the heaven and the earth. Now we know that it was not created, according to the words of Isaiah, without form and void. It was created inhabited. We know from the words of Jeremiah that it was created with men, with birds, with great vegetation, with cities, and with light. And we know from John that this dude named the Word, who became the Christ, was right there front and center helping it out, and that he was actually the light, which was the genesis of all physical and spiritual life. It's all from light. Don't believe them if they say darkness was first. They're in error. Many of them honestly so, because they never heard this until now. Don't believe them when they say light comes from darkness, because it's just not true. They're in error. Most of them have never heard this, so we give them a pass. But the gospel truth is there was light first. Darkness tried to overcome it, but was not able to do so. And all life, A-L-L, not some life, not most life, not almost everything of life. No, all life, both physical, all life, spiritual as well, comes from light. Doesn't care if you like it, believe it. Doesn't care what your truth is. The gospel truth is all life in this universe, physical and spiritual, comes from light, 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 light. And that the God that you've been worshiping tried to destroy everything, and his weapon was darkness. The God of the Bible is a dark God. The God of the Bible is a murdering God. That's why I'm the Christian whistleblower. That's why I'm the Christian whistleblower. That's why I'm bringing this to you. That's why I'm bringing this to you. We'll be here every Wednesday night with this Christian whistleblower broadcast. And I'm here to help you guide your own spirit, master your own ascension, be your own guru. And I'm here to help you as you unindoctrinate yourself. JeffreyDarty.com, Christian Whistleblower, Jeff Darty Show on YouTube. Check me out. Like, share, subscribe. Ask questions, question answers. And again, more than anything else, ladies and gentlemen, unindoctrinate yourselves.